The rain fell in relentless sheets, drumming against the roof of the old house, a lonely silhouette swallowed by the dense, dark forest. Inside, Emma pulled the covers tighter, trying to shut out the storm's fury. But another sound pierced through the roar of the thunder. A faint, hesitant knock. Tap-a-tap-a-tap. It seemed to come from the front door. She held her breath, listening. Silence. Maybe it was just the wind, a branch scraping against the wood. She tried to settle back into her pillows, but there it was again. Tap-a-tap-a-tap. Louder this time, more insistent. A shiver traced its way down her spine. Who could possibly be out there, in the storm, in the middle of nowhere? Curiosity, laced with a growing unease, finally won. She slipped out of bed, her bare feet cold against the old wooden floorboards, and crept towards the front of the house. The hallway was a tunnel of shadows, the occasional flash of lightning illuminating the peeling wallpaper. With a trembling hand, she reached for the doorknob, the old brass cold and unwelcoming. She turned it slowly. The click of the latch echoing loudly in the sudden lull between thunderclaps, she pulled the heavy door inward, peering out into the maelstrom. Nothing. Just the churning darkness, the thrashing trees, and the torrential rain. Not a soul in sight. No footprints on the muddy path. A nervous laugh escaped her lips. It really was just the storm. She closed the door, making sure to slide the deadbolt firmly into place to sound a small comfort in the oppressive silence. As she turned back towards her room, the lights flickered violently, plunging the house into near-total darkness. And then it came again. Tap-a-tap-a-tap. But this time, it wasn't from the door. It was coming from the living room window, right beside her. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She froze, staring at the dark pane of glass, rain streaming down its surface like tears. Tap-tap-a-tap. It was louder now, more frantic, like someone desperate to get in. But there was no one there. She could see the reflection of the flickering hall light, her own terrified face, and the empty, storm-tossed yard beyond. A wave of panic washed over her. This wasn't the wind. This wasn't a branch. She backed away slowly, her eyes wide, scanning the darkened room. The knocking stopped at the window, and for a moment, all she could hear was her own ragged breathing and the storm outside. Then it started again, from the wall behind the sofa. Thump, thump, thump. A deep, hollow sound, as if coming from inside the very structure of the house. The lights flickered again, died, then sputtered back to life. She was trapped in a symphony of terror, the knocks moving around her, a phantom percussionist playing on the walls, the floor, the ceiling. Each series of knocks grew in volume, in aggression, until the entire house seemed to vibrate with the malevolent rhythm. Fleeing the living room, she stumbled into a small study she hadn't explored yet. Her hand, searching for a light switch, brushed against a dusty box on a bookshelf. It tumbled to the floor, spilling its contents. Old photographs, curled and yellowed with age. She picked one up. A smiling family stood on the front porch of this very house. A mother, a father, to small children. They looked happy, frozen in a Sunnia time. She sifted through the other photos, their life in this house laid out before her. But the last photo was different. There was a picture of the family inside, their faces contorted in fear, staring at something just outside the frame. On the back, a single, spidery word was scrawled, knocking. A cold dread, heavier than anything she'd felt before, settled in her stomach. As if on cue, the knocking returned, but this time it was close, so close. The study door, which she had just run through, began to creak open, slowly, deliberately, pushed by an unseen hand. It wasn't trying to get in anymore. It was already here. The knocking stopped being a random cacophony and became a guide. It was leading her. Thump, thump, from the end of the hall. She followed, a moth drawn to a terrifying flame, her own will seemingly no longer in control. It led her to a small, unassuming door she hadn't noticed before, tucked away under the main staircase. It was sealed shut with a heavy padlock and thick, rusty chains. The knocking was coming from directly behind it. Thump, thump, thump. It was deep, resonant, and felt ancient. With a surge of adrenaline-fueled desperation, she found a crowbar in a nearby closet and went to work on the chains. The metal groaned and protested, but with a final, desperate heave, the lock snapped. The chains fell away with a deafening clatter. The knocking stopped. The silence that followed was absolute, more terrifying than the noise it replaced. Slowly, she pulled the door open. It revealed a set of steep, stone steps descending into a blackness so complete it seemed to swallow the light from the hallway. A damp, earthy smell, the smell of a tomb, wafted up to meet her. Against every instinct screaming at her to run, to get out of the house, she took the first step down, and then another. The air grew colder, heavier. She held her phone out, its small light a pathetic weapon against the oppressive dark. The basement was empty, just stone walls and a dirt floor. She scanned the space, the beam of light cutting nervously through the shadows. Where had the knocking come from? Why had it led her here? The silence stretched, taut and unbearable, and then she heard it. Not a knock, a soft, what sound? A shifting. Directly behind her, she whipped around, her light cutting across the darkness. For a fraction of a second, it was there, just at the edge of the beam. A figure, pale and gaunt. Its limbs impossibly long and twisted at unnatural angles. Its head was tilted, and from the deep sockets of its face, something dark seemed to watch her. The knocking hadn't stopped. It had just moved. It came from right behind her ear, a sharp, deafening crack as the figure lunged from the shadows. Her scream was the last sound she ever made. The next morning, the storm had passed. Sunlight streamed through the trees, glinting off the roof of the lonely house. Two police cruisers were parked out front. Two officers walked out of the front door, their faces grim. Searched the whole place, one said, shaking his head. Not a sign of her. It's like she just vanished. Same as the family before. His partner nodded. Let's call it in. The place is empty. They got in their cars and drove away, leaving the house silent and still in the morning sun. But as the sound of their sirens faded into the distance, a new sound began. Faint, at first, from deep inside the walls of the empty house, tap, tap, tap. It grew steadier, more patient, waiting. The camera pushes slowly, inexorably, towards the wall. The rhythmic knocking getting louder and closer, until the screen is filled with the texture of the plaster, and then only darkness, tap, tap, tap.